All right.
This is episode 4?
Yeah. Welcome back to episode 4 of the Strength Starts Here podcast. Today we'd like to chat about, we're going to give our opinions on 3 top movements aside from the squat, bench, and deadlift. But they can be variations of the lifts, and then 3 lifts you might find that are not, that you don't use in your training or you don't see beneficial.
Yeah.
You can kick it off if you'd like.
Yeah, so obviously start off by saying squat, bench, dead, I think, are king of the lifts. Powerlifting, bodybuilding, strongman, I think if you got those bases, that's the important base. But they're not the end-all, be-all, right? 3, what do you want first? 3 that I don't think or 3 that I want?
Let's do the pros first. Let's do your
pros first. Okay. So first would be leg press. So and a lot of these are going to be, unpopular opinions, to be honest. I think leg press is beneficial for both the squat and the deadlift, and explosive power. If you're doing it right and you're training it right, I think you build a lot of explosive power on the leg press. So that's definitely...
As well as controlled movements, too.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So on the bodybuilding side, working on that negative, definitely building more there as well. So that's definitely one that I think is beneficial. For me, when I deadlift, I kind of mimic a leg press in my head to get it off the floor, right? I'm not pulling the weight up. I'm actually leg pressing the weight.
You're pushing through the floor like a...
Right, just like you would that sled. So I think if muscle memory type, right, getting that muscle memory, that cue built into you of push the weight away. So mentally and physically, I think it's beneficial that way.
I think I use the same concept when I'm coaching guys with the deadlift. We always call it a pull.
Yep.
It's a pull-in movement, but I've had guys that, if you just teach it to them a different way, you are going to be pressing through the floor. Pretend the bar is staying still, but you're pressing the floor out from underneath you. Very similar to a leg press. I use the same keys.
It's one of those cues that, and I've actually had, people come off the, out of a deadlift and it didn't look right or didn't feel right. Okay, I want you to go do 2 to 3 sets over on the leg press, slow controlled movements, get that feel, and then come back over. And then, the weight flies.
Because it's essentially the tool using to activate that lower body and the posterior chain, or the glutes and the hamstrings.
Yeah. So it's a great warm up, but it's also a great builder. It's a mainstay. If you want to throw that in there. So that's kind of one. Lat pull downs, I think, are one of those mandatories. I put them in all my programming.
All variations.
Yeah.
Which ones do you prefer?
I prefer kind of like a outside shoulder width, not super wide, not super narrow, but some of the mag grips I think have their benefit.
More of a neutral grip on the shoulder. Neutral
grip if you wanted to do, even like, what do they call it, like a V-bar, right? Real narrow neutral grip. To me, the lat pull down carries over in both the bench and obviously a deadlift. Right, so you do build that power in the back to be able to control that weight. But a lot of people, a lot of beginners don't realize that the lats play such a big role in the bench press.
Oh, for sure.
So if you can build a big back, strong back, I should say, your bench is going to benefit from it, your deadlift as well.
Absolutely, not to go way off on a tangent here, but I kind of have this percentage game I play in my head at what lifts are really working what muscle groups. And bench press, everyone always thinks chest. It's chest day, right? For some of us, it is. For me, it's not. I'm probably less a percentage of chest and more of a shoulder and back presser.
Yeah.
Because I have a dominant back.
Right.
So Melissa, she's really good. She got pecs, which she feels every contraction and every bench. For me, I have to do certain variations of machines to feel my chest or certain different angles on the bench.
Or almost pre-exhaust everything else first, right?
Pre-exhaust, everything though. Right. Not just your triceps, but your back included, just to be able to feel a bench press in my chest. I mean, I use so much power coming out of the bench with the back. And, any powerlifter will tell you, a big bench comes from a big back as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll if I go heavy on bench, I know it was a good bench day when my back hurts the next day. Right? So if you're in that, mid to high fours, low fives, and you're able to control it, your lats should be hurting. Not terribly hurting, but they should be sore the next day.
You should feel that they were active.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely lat pull downs. Even on the bodybuilding side, right? Like probably one of the best builders is for your back is a pull up, right? Well, pull ups aren't easy for everybody, so the next best thing probably is going to be
the lat pull down.
The lat pull down, because it mimics it very well, right?
And as bodybuilders, we use a ton of different variations.
Yeah.
And then the variations is where I really love it. You know, double handle pull downs, really low and tight. You can feel the whole lat activated all the way into the bottom of the insertion. Sometimes just a wide grip bar. There's a lot of rotation sometimes of scapula.
Yeah.
Yes, you are activating your lats, and yes, you can feel it in there. I don't think that's necessarily the best version of a lat pull down, but the more shoulder width and different handles.
I stay away from the super wide lat pull down. It does cause me issues kind of in that upper lat insertion area. It always feels, more like I'm going to tear it than I'm, ripping it up for benefit. So I do stay a little outside of shoulder width and call that good, or even underhand, more of like a chin
all
movement.
those mag bars and the neutral grip bars, the D handle bars, where you're placing your hand in a neutral position, keeps the tension off the shoulders.
Yep.
You're able to concentrate on the lats as you pull through the movement. So,
and then my
big
last
third one,
big third one, and this is kind of leaning more towards strongman, but it does have a carryover into powerlifting. But a neutral grip tricep press down. Or tricep extension, if you want to call it.
so hands here or here?
Here, on that same, like you were talking about, the D handle lat pull down bar, I use that, and it's just a press down on it, mimics a lockout for your log. So I think that carryover and building that strength in that position, especially for your log press, is going to be great. But also, I'm not a super wide bencher, so it does keep. And I kind of have a suicide grip on my bench, and I cant my palms in a little bit, so it doesn't rest fully in my palm. It kind of crosses over, so it is in more of a neutral position. So it benefits my bench as well.
This was the tricep neutral?
Yeah, neutral grip tricep.
Push down?
Yep, like on a cable rack.
Okay.
So those are definitely my top three. I think that each of them have a carryover to multiple.
And depending on the body and the person, you can do slight variations of all those movements for the triceps.
Yeah, absolutely. And, some of us can rotate a little bit more than the others and, get into different positions, so you definitely have to play with them a little bit. But for the most part, if you can get into that position on that neutral grip, press down, one of my training partners, not really as effective for him. He does prefer more, a less neutral, but still, a slanted grip on it. But
like kind of the V handle.
Exactly, yeah. So if you can, play around with it, and I think those three can build on so much more
for your pressing. So you were a little bit more leading toward the powerlifting and strongman arena. Yeah. So big pressing movements, because normally you're neutral grip.
Yep.
So you want to have all those insertions ready for you.
And that neutral grip bar is almost a perfect, distance as the logs are.
Close to that 24 inch or whatever it is.
Right. So it's a nice, so that power is going to be there, when you need it. So
awesome.
I try to replicate in other ways the same movements, I guess.
You're just taking the main movement of your lifts and kind of figuring out what works best to strengthen partials in throughout those
exactly.
lifts, kind of like we do in a bench press, do a block press or a slingshot, just different variations to strengthen your overall. Well, let me see what my top three would be. Definitely love squat, bench, and deadlift, and variations of a squat. I like the hat feel squats. I think it's super key because as a bodybuilder, we can add a little overload to that and not necessarily overload different parts of the body. So we can take a little stress off of the spine and focus more on the legs when we're going through those lifts in the hat field with the safety bar. So I love that one. You can tempo them. You can do regular lifts, regular sets.
Almost like a
Rest
force rep
pause.
too. Is that right? So I've never done a Hatfield squat, but I've watched quite a few of the members in the gym do them, and it almost looks like maybe you can pull through if you need just a little bit of a bump out of the legs.
You're kind of taking you don't have to balance as much, right?
Okay.
Because you have your hands set on there. You're not actually ripping and
Pulling on,
gripping.
okay.
You're still keeping all the tension in the legs, but you're trying to take a little bit of that strain out of the core
Okay.
and on the lower back. But for example, if you can do 600 with the safety squat for a single, you might be able to get 6 reps once you're in the Hatfield position.
Okay.
Because you get your hands up there and you can feel the weight. So it allows your spine, your central nervous system to overload and feel the weight without having to go up to a 700-pound squat.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can kind of be a little safer, and I find that's a pretty great
But you still go up to like a 700-pound half.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
We still we're not talking about me. We're talking in general. And it just just drives home for newer athletes what the squat is supposed to feel like without having to think about the upper portion of the body.
Okay.
Kind of like a belt squat would be in a way. And then that was number 1. Number 2 is a hack squat for me. Definitely a little bit more bodybuilding style. Yet again, a machine that you can overload and take to failure without needing spots because you can just bottom out and crawl out of it if you're done. And the way it targets the lower body is incredible, especially for bodybuilding. When you're trying to, get quad sweep and build different areas, how you place your feet on the platform. So I really like the hack squat machine. Cybex one, it feels the hardest. The other variations, with the different inclines, ride easier, so you can load more weight on them. But the Cybex one's the killer. That's the ones we have because that's what we want to do. We want to die on there. I need to pick an upper body. What's my third for the upper body? Tricep injuries. So I'd probably pick a tricep exercise that you could help stretch the tricep out. And this might be a little twofer, a 3 and 4 in 1. Single arm cable tricep extensions in the neutral grip. So neutral grip again, not having to be completely supine pronated, but you can just find the right angle and stand with the cable machine over here, so you're kind of pulling across, getting a full extension of the tricep. With my elbow injuries, I'm able to repair, still lift, still target the tricep, and still go into my pressing movements without just taxing the crap out of the elbows. And then also a concentration curl, where you're hanging on the rack, where the elbows, you're not actually placing the elbow against your knee, but it's just hanging there and you're doing concentration curls. As you do that movement, you're stretching the tricep as well in the curl, and so you're helping repair, the tricep. So I've had to utilize that recently, and that's probably why it's kind of it's important to me. It's number 3, but I think it's very important to keep the, if you keep banging all the weights heavy, something's going to break at some point in time, and we've done that, and we try not to do that. And this is one way that I'm repairing, still building, and now getting back into those heavy weights and staying a little bit healthier. So those would be my 3 pros.
I like them. And with the leg, or the hack squat rather, I should say, that one. So I am a firm believer in CNS overload, right? And it almost seems like on the hack you could do that, right? Because you could load it up. Maybe you don't squat 500 on a bar, but you could squat it, load that up to 500 and push yourself and get your CNS primed for that weight, right?
Yeah. You're actually, the central nervous system will still have the weight because it's on your shoulders throughout the whole spine.
Yeah.
But the spine is supported also against the backboard. So when we're constantly overloading, if you're constantly overload 4 days a week, and those movements include your, have your spine as stability, you're smoked. You're not going to be able to lift. Right. So you need to reserve that for the back day maybe, or maybe it's your deadlift day that you really, go all out on that. But the other days, when we're constantly overloading and progressing, it's hard to go doing drop sets and failure sets. It's hard to do that with a squat bar safely. You absolutely can.
Yeah.
But you can push a little bit farther when your back's supported, and all you got to do is the bottom half of the body, So that's why I like it.
All right.
And it's probably one of the more challenging movements.
Yeah.
For a machine, that is. And It's a love-hate relationship, but
Yeah, well, that's me with legs any day. Any leg exercise is love-hate.
and just because I had 2 leg exercises doesn't mean legs are my favorite.
Yeah, right? That's a little weird.
But, it's just because trying to bring those areas up, these are the ways I've done that,
And like you spoke on, that's bodybuilding, and you can put those into powerlifting too.
Yeah, a lot of crossover into
Right?
powerlifting, yeah.
That is the good thing, and that idea of the power builder, right? That's doing those heavy leg presses and the heavy hack squats and that.
And I'd say most of our styles of training at our gyms tend to be a hybrid style.
Yeah.
A cross between, because a lot of our athletes do a little bit of both. And that power builder, it's essentially what you are in the off season of any sport, right?
Right.
You're just trying to get stronger and more powerful, so.
And the only difference is you guys try to be pretty at the end of it all.
Man, you gotta start cutting the hair and tanning again
Right.
soon. So what are 3 lifts that you think on the con side that you just like, that's a waste of time?
Okay,
Maybe,
so
or
you're going to get a
for
lot
you?
of hate mail for
Yeah,
this one.
well, we probably both will.
So, and I'll preface this with, so I do believe for deadlifts, I break them up, and everybody I program for, I break up deadlifts into 3 different movements, right? Deficits from the ground and a rack, right? So you're building through that whole, and you spoke on that earlier, right? You're building through that whole motion.
The whole range,
Right.
breaking it down. Right?
Squats, pause, full motion, and then I like to do like a pin squat. All right. Bench, it's a little bit harder, but I do like floor press, pin press, and that kind of stuff. However, there are a few things that just bother me with the powerlifting world sometimes.
What's the number?
Number one, and I go in order, so I don't know
Okay.
if this is my number one hate.
Okay.
It's just that squat's the first event, so I'll say this one first. Box squats. I don't find the benefit in them.
Really?
I don't understand, and this is going to be a recurring theme with my hates on these. I think that you get a better session out of a pause squat than you do a box squat. And I see a lot of, and if you do them perfectly, I can see the benefit. Problem is that 98% of the world doesn't do them right, and they sit and they rock into it. Well, don't teach your body to rock into out of the hole. As soon as you do that, you're coming forward, right? Which is usually why people don't go super heavy on box squats, because you're compressing, and so I don't understand. For me, it doesn't make sense. I understand why people do them and the concept behind
So
them.
are you talking more of a beginner lifter or an advanced lifter?
I'm gonna say both.
Both.
I'm gonna say both.
If executed incorrectly.
Right. If you're doing them right, and I can see the benefit on them, then absolutely I get it. Problem is I don't see that often. So box squats number 1. Larson presses on bench is number 2. I want to use leg
For
drive.
the viewers, what are we talking about?
Leg up,
Legs all the way straight out?
straight out. Right, and you're working on core stability through your range of motion. There's other ways we can do this. Use some dumbbells, But if you're on a bench and you got a barbell,
Instead of putting your feet on the ground,
right.
you're going to put your feet on another bench or straight out from the bench.
Yeah.
That's a Larson press.
That's a Larson press.
Don't find the...
Put your feet on the ground. Use your leg drive. Teach your body the movement that you want it to do when you're pressing 500 pounds. If you can Larson press 500 pounds, more power to you. This doesn't apply. However,
There's some guys with no legs that could do that.
Well, yeah.
There they go.
Yes. I'm not training to be one of those guys.
You're not training to lose your legs at some point?
I hope not. I did my tour already. I kept them. We're all right. So, to me, and I don't program them because I don't see the benefit. I've done them a couple times to try to see if I could get the benefit. I just don't see it. I don't see the carryover. So to me, it's just a waste of time in a program. I'd much rather use that time for another movement that would build that core stability, right?
And the auxiliary muscles around that.
Right. So I'd much rather you do a dumbbell press, on your toes or something. Still use that leg drive, but at least dumbbells you're stabilized, right? Again, I understand why people use them.
These are personal opinions between both of us, right?
The last one is the pause deadlift. Again, why would you teach your body to stop midway through the shin if your goal is to lock it out. So it's a mental thing.
Do you just not like them? Is that why?
So here's the thing. On the reverse of that, though, you taught me Dimmel.
Mm-hmm.
Which one is it? Dimmel or Dibble?
Dimmel.
Dimmel deadlifts, right?
Yeah.
So you're at a lockout and you're going down, and then you come back up, but you stop mid shin.
Mm-hmm. Right below the knees. Yeah.
Right below the knee.
That's usually
I
ends up being
understand.
a sticking spot for most, right?
Right. So it's almost a rack pull, right?
But you don't get to put the weight down.
But it's constant tension.
Right.
So I get that one. If I'm coming halfway up my shin, and stop pausing, I don't want to teach my body to stop mid shin. My goal is to lock it out. So it's more of a mental thing for me on that one, on why I don't program them.
Just personal.
Yep. I have very little scientific backing on these decisions.
This is a bro
Yes,
science.
bro
talk
science,
right now.
and like what I've learned to hate. I'd much rather throw bands and get that extra tension
throughout the movement,
right? And then it kicks in. If you could make it kick in right about that same level, I'd much rather do that, because now we're working to push through that barrier of halfway up, right? Or partial way up. So that would be my preferred method if I was going to put them in. But I'll be honest, I don't program many bands. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I do chains, but I don't do a lot of banded work. I don't program bands too often.
You know why? Conjugate, West Side Conjugate uses a lot of bands and chains. One of the benefits of that is you can overload the top end, but not feel it at the low end.
Right.
So you're essentially not stressing the central nervous system to its max every time in the gym, let's say, for deadlifts, and you can stay under the total 100% tax of the central nervous system and still have progression, right? So I understand the concept of it. I don't use a ton in my training, but are you done?
Yeah, I was just going to, on that, with your point there, how do you feel about reverse bands?
Reverse bands?
Those are even more asinine to me.
I mean, I think there's for beginners, you don't need bands or chains or any fancy stuff.
Right.
You need to learn bench, or squat, bench, and deadlift. You need to have the basic mandatory movements around those lifts to strengthen your body, and do that first. Who cares about all the gimmicks and the toys? That's fun, but let's get some strength first.
Yeah.
Because what's going to build overall strength more than anything? Just straight weight.
That is.
And you got to learn your body and do all that. So on a beginner lifter, get rid of it. If you're a female and you're benching and you can't put weight on the bar to add the bands, we don't need to be adding the bands yet. It's not really adding much. I said female, male or female, it doesn't matter. We're not going to. We have some females in here that crush most males.
They'll bench me sometimes.
Yeah. So that's where it's frustrating to me. To go back to the box squat, I find it's a very valuable tool. So I disagree on your opinion from it, but you don't use it, you don't like it. I found that there's about 40 different things you can teach with the box. So as a teaching tool, it's very important. But if you're doing it incorrectly, for anything in the gym, get out of here. You're wasting your time.
Right.
I don't like this way. You hit that box at the bottom, it's a pause, you stay under tension. If someone was to pull the box, you could stay there and stand right back up.
Yeah, a lot of people use it as a seat, as like a break.
Or they just barely touch it as no, you're supposed to sit in it, stay loaded, and explode out of the hole. So it's teaching explosion from a dead stop instead of a rebound. Those are 2 or 3 different ways why I like the boxes. But, yet again, if you're not doing it correctly, you're just wasting time. So you have to have the good, make sure you're following, Be Strong Powerhouse YouTube page for the correct way to do things, while you're implementing these lifts. It'd be like you're a righty trying to bat left-handed, it's kind of pointless at this point in time. You're never going to get to play this season, right? So, what was the second one again that you had?
Larson press.
Larson press. I can wrap my head around that. It's a lot of balance. I would probably do different accessories. It's not just core, but then at that point, it's a lot of shoulder because you find yourself rolling all over the bench. So dumbbells would be a great way to fix that. I don't program a lot of those myself. So yeah, I agree with you on that one for sure. What are my lifts that I find somewhat pointless? And all this I have to preface is if done incorrectly.
Yeah.
And that's probably why they come to our mind, because for me at least, this first one tends to be just done incorrectly. And we have on the YouTube page as well, we have Melissa showing how to execute this correctly, and it's the glute thrust. What do we call it?
Hip thrust?
Yeah, hip thrust.
What is?
On a Smith machine or a free weight, the hip thrust. So you can put dumbbell on your lap as well. Then I find a lot of, I don't use it in my programming often. I tend to put it in there for maybe a bikini gal and some of the wellness gals for glute. I find there's better exercises to target those muscles that I'll choose first. But they'll put the weight on there probably too much a lot of the times, and they're doing more of a hamstring and a quad and push through feet instead of actually squeezing the glutes,
right?
Which is what you're supposed to be doing.
It's like again, female, and a lot of males are doing it these days, but that's their ego lift, right?
It can be an ego lift, yeah. Because there's a lot of hinging involved where you could move a lot of weight.
Right.
But if we're really targeting what we're supposed to be working on, man, you don't have to put much weight on that thing for sets of 12 to 15 and you're smoked, right?
Yep.
And there's guys, I've seen some dudes do 600-700 pounds correctly, and it's flipping impressive, but it's one of my least favorite for glutes. But yeah, I'd still use it as a tool, and we'll rotate it through. But there's other things we can use for that. What else do I not like? Oh, for me, Arnold presses. I do program them for some. I think it's individually based, yet again, individually based on how you feel it. For me personally, I don't do them. Yeah. I can't do them. All day, I can push 150s here all day long, but as soon as I go like this, if it's 50 pounds, it's probably too heavy.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if I practiced it, I could get it stronger, but what benefit am I getting out of that where I can't replace with another movement?
Yeah.
And so I'd rather just strict press, and then, to get that, I'm going to do other
raises or something. And
yeah, we have the Troy pull, right, that we put on, and we can use that to build those same muscles. So one that doesn't work for me, and that's probably more personal-based bias than anything. But, Melissa, she can do them flipping really close to what she can strict press. She could come around and do, so she's incredible there. So certain people, different builds, doesn't fit for me. My short little arms, it doesn't fit well.
Little arms, big chest.
Yeah.
Gets in the way.
Another exercise, man, I didn't think this one through all the way. What other one gets at me? I guess hanging leg raises incorrectly done would be one. I still program them, but man, a hanging leg raise
as an ab exercise,
as a full core, man, it's not just abs,
and
it's probably one of my favorite exercises, even though I'm saying it's a con because I don't think people do it right. But when done and executed correctly, it's probably the number one best ab exercise. It doesn't grow width or size; it grows strength. You're hanging your whole torso. You have to use your whole torso to lift. So I love it, and I hate it at the same time when done incorrectly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I was just gonna rebuttal.
Yeah, go ahead.
Your first one was. What was your first one for legs?
I'm drawing a blank. Let's go to the second one. Arnold presses.
Okay, so with that being said, Arnold presses. What I see a lot.
Hip thruster, sorry.
Oh, hip thrust.
There we go.
Okay, so it's one of those ones. I'm not good at them, so I don't like them. I understand the benefit to them though, because if you watch some of the top strongmen, Big Z, he does them weekly. Really? And he's doing heavy weights, and they use them as a power builder,
like a hip thrust
push
power.
Those hips through on a heavy deadlift. right? So that's what they're working on. So I see the benefit there.
Or log,
Right? And that
lifts
pop
and
and, full extension on the stones, right?
I see it.
So I see the benefit. I don't think I'm coordinated enough for it. I do what you're saying, and I kind of recruit the wrong muscles. And maybe I'm going too heavy, but I've tried it with 135, and I still can't get those glutes to fire.
I'm the same way.
know?
Like even with the lighter weights,
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I have to focus so hard to get the glute. I'm going to do a different exercise, like a Romanian deadlift variation. I can feel in my glutes all day long, so I'm going to do that instead. So.
Yep, absolutely. And that's usually what I do instead.
Yeah, but for the thrusting, the hip thrust power, I can absolutely see having a lot of weight for, crossing over into that deadlift or the strongman movements.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Even on your yoke walks, I'm sure there's a ton of carryover, right? Arnold presses, like you said, when done incorrectly, and what I see the most often, and what I've had to, critique and change up on a lot of people, is that they turn it into a wrist movement, right? And like that wrist should stay pretty much locked in place.
They're coming down and doing this.
Yeah, and now you're just swinging it. I mean, cool, you're going to get some good forearm work out of it, but you're missing the point of activating that front delt to that
the elbow has to
the medial,
lead. The elbow
and then
has
to the
lead
rear
the
delt
movement.
to lock it up, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the elbow does that movement, and that's what I see the most often people doing incorrectly on that movement. And
Or they're coming down and they're doing it. That's not an Arnold press, guys.
no, that's
that's just a press
you're
with
just a twisty now.
Yeah.
It's a twisty press.
It's called a twisty press.
It's gonna take the world by storm. Everybody's doing twisty presses now.
Oh, they said they hate Arnold presses. No, we didn't.
No. In the beginning, I did a lot of them, and I think what happens.
I did too, for sure.
I tried to go too heavy, and then I began to hate them because they made my shoulders hurt. So I stopped doing them. I think they have a benefit, but if you do them correctly, all right? And then hanging leg raises. That and a bench crunch are the only abs I think I've done in the past 5 years, right? And more than once. Contrary to popular belief, I've done it more than once. But
I was looking over there because I was thinking, I'm like,
Yeah.
I do more than once. I do those two exercises. They're my favorite. The bench leg lifts and the hanging leg raises. I do add a couple little things in there toward the end, some oblique twists and stuff like that. But those are my movements. I don't like machine abs, and I want to use my body weight. I don't want a massive gut. I want it nice and tight, but I want it strong. I already got big from a lot of powerlifting, so
right,
I want to keep
so
kind of
tighten it up.
Yeah.
One issue that I have, and I don't know why this is, but when I hang, I'm not able to control it as much. So I almost do a static hold in like a halfway pull-up position, and then do my leg lifts. And I've noticed that I'm working that back out more, but I'm getting more of a core workout. I feel like when I do it that way.
So instead of hanging all the way up,
Yeah, I'm halfway.
do you pull or do you put the elbow sleeve thing?
No. I hold myself up, so
hold
I'm
yourself
holding
up.
at a static hold, and then I'll knock
There's a
out
lot
my
of
set.
tie-ins. There's a ton of tie-ins. That's why I love it, because it
Yeah.
ties the front to the back, and all the reach over of the muscles of the obliques into the lats.
So if done incorrectly, absolutely, I think there's
Well, we see guys up there and they're, and the whole
Oh,
machine's freaking
and they're
moving
almost
like
scorpion
and they're like
on the back end.
swinging,
Yeah. That's not stability.
Are they working their abs? They are at some point.
Yeah, they're also ripping their shoulders out. You're gonna hurt
maybe
something.
maybe it's like we break the lift down. Maybe it's a partial for a kipping
Yeah.
pull-up.
It's a kipping leg raise.
Yeah,
I
but
like
they
it.
don't do the upper body.
Yeah.
Just the leg push.
Yeah, absolutely. No, those are good. Those, for those reasons, those are pretty good. I will say some of my honorable mentions
Yeah.
for squat.
Let's do three of them.
Three honorable mentions?
Three honorable mentions.
Oh man. Okay. So the first one, it's a twofer.
Okay.
Adduction and abductions. The carryover for your hip stability.
And
The added weight that you can put on your squat, and again, the stigma, oh, well, that's a girl's exercise. I don't know. I started doing them. First time I started putting them actually in my program, I attribute that to at least a 50-pound jump in my squat over that,
that prep.
Yeah. Because I was just so much more solid in the hips. I could control the weight down into the squat more. I could control the yoke better, right? I had more hip stability.
Well, I think so many times as lifters, we work 2 planes, or maybe just 1 plane. You know, we're just here. We're not working side to side.
Yep.
And then it goes for all the variations of squats. You know, you got narrow stance, mid stance, and more of a sumo stance. Well, when you're doing a sumo stance squats, you're adding a lot of abduction and adduction into that movement. But if you're never practicing that, this machine's a great machine to to make sure that, hey, that you're warmed up, you're there, I feel them. You know, it's, essentially you're not working some of those muscles necessarily in your average daily training if you're not going deep into the squat, because the adduction's built 100%. The best way to build adductors is below 90. Below 90, that's where the adductor strength. I mean, Melissa, I like to use her as a perfect example because she's got some of the best abduction and adductors out there for the females. She squats low every time with the weight, you know.
That's probably the powerlifting side of don't leave it to the judges to make a decision on it, right?
And then also she does a ton of cable adductors and abductors, or the machine. She actually prefers for abduction the cable because she feels like you can take the leg and swing it even wider instead of just kind of moving the legs out this way. They both work, just different variations. So I agree 100% on that one.
Yeah, and then if you have to, maybe you don't have access to those. Sumo does. That's a great
sumo deads.
Variable to it. You know,
you can even do goblet squats. Yeah.
So if you don't have access to the machine or a cable rack or whatever, or bands even, you do them in bands. You know, I've seen that before.
You can for those that are lifting out of their garage, maybe some strongmen that don't go to gyms. All machines were really built around main movements. Yeah. That they just wanted to make it more efficient and easier to get in and get out. Yeah. But you can literally almost train every muscle. And that's how we started this gym. I mean, it was a small gym with just free weights, no machines. We've added machines because we like them and there are benefits. But man, we're still hardcore on the heavy weights and free weight because you can build your body that. I mean, that's how our bodies were built, was from the free weights before machines. So you can always find a variation. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to backtrack real quick and give you a dishonorable mention.
Oh, cool.
So one more that I do not like. And I understand the purpose in bodybuilding, but as a strength athlete...
I did a 4, didn't I? I did a 3-4.
I think you did. Yes, let me, we'll add it to the list. But as a strength athlete, I don't understand the obsession with it, but it shrugs.
Especially in strongman or, I mean, any of the sports.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. Go ahead.
So, traps are best built by overhead presses.
I might argue on the best built, but I would say heavy deads, heavy rows in any sort of fashion are going to build your traps because weight that's pulling down, when your arms are being pulled down, what's holding that up? It's the trap.
The rear trap and the rhomboids, right?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. From the front view, the traps hitting your ears, I think is a press.
You think it's a press?
Yeah. If you want that look from the front, right? If the aesthetic look, if you're going for that, but the most powerful traps, on some of these powerlifters and strongmen, I guarantee you are built off of the press. In bodybuilding, I understand why you'd want to shrug. But they pull heavy
too, so you can't take the deadlift out of that.
No, you can't. You can't.
I haven't done shrugs. I've done it 4 times in 6 years. And I got some mean old traps.
That's probably 3 to 4 more times than I've done it in the past 6 years.
Yeah, and I've built mine from 100%. I'm not as strong on the deadlifts anymore. I still do them.
Yeah.
But I do back every single week, pretty hardcore, and a lot of heavy rows. And if you look at the back muscles, the lats are on the side, and the trap goes through the whole body. So you're using that on every row that you do. Yep. But that's definitely... So if you want big traps, deadlift heavy, press heavy, and pull heavy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
I agree.
Shrugs, and
I might do them every now and again just to kind of feel them, but
I've done them to stretch out like a single-sided, just to try to pull it and put some blood in there, but it wasn't for more purpose than just like a warm-up or a stretch, right? So
no, I agree.
You go to some of these commercial gyms and you got guys that are shrugging, 405 even, with tiny traps. Well, how long have you been shrugging for? Oh, 4 years. Do you think it's working then?
Well,
Have
look at
you
some of
tried
these
the dumbbell
powerlifters and
press?
strongmen, just like you
Yeah.
said. They're doing heavy presses. They're doing heavy pulls.
Yeah, I want to contact some of these, pro strongmen and say, when was the last time you shrugged? Most of them, I would say, is probably not very often.
Yeah, no, I agree on that one.
I don't want to guarantee it's none.
Yeah,
There's
some of
always
us are
those caveats.
genetically a little bit stronger in different areas too.
Yeah.
But if you say I'm more genetically strong, well, I always have trained a certain way from a very young age, and that's why my muscles are developed this way, right? So, but calves, I'll take calves as being genetic forms. Pretty genetic in my family, so
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
I don't know where I got
them.
my calves from, but I'm not mad about it.
Yeah,
Grandma was rocking around somewhere with some meats on her, I guess, but
some little T-bones hanging off the back there.
Back to the honorable mentions, right?
Yeah.
We'll go back there. Matt Wenning had this video, and I call them shrug rows. And again, I know that's contradictory to what I just said. However, this variation is for the rhomboid and the rear trap, right? So like you said, those heavy rows, but it's a dumbbell row with a shrug, almost inverted though, right? Or how would you say that?
Are you
So
still,
I don't shrug up, but I shrug back to really try to break a pencil between those rhomboids.
So it's a high row.
Yeah, but bent over, I don't know.
Elbows a little bit more forward instead of tucked to your pockets.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so you're doing more of a high row, working more of the upper top of the trap.
And I'm not worried about the trap that you see from the front. I'm worried about that back trap. And the reason why I enjoy those so much is because of that deadlift carryover.
And
Because
there's a lot of bench carryover on that too.
Yeah. I didn't put him in when I was like chasing a heavier bench, but I did when I was trying to chase a
But
heavy
your bench
deadlift.
was decent at the time, so you're probably just chasing the deadlift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well,
You're always chasing.
I chase something always. As long as I don't have to run too far, I'm chasing. The
4 steps
yeah,
outside of the facility, you're on your own.
I'm driving the rest of the way. And I call them shrug rows, and I'll have to go back. And his video was called 5 things you're not doing for a better deadlift, and that was one of the ones. And I started doing them, and again I put probably 40 to 50 pounds on my deadlift. With that being the big change in my program. I was pushing heavier weights, but that was the accessory that kind of got added in at that point.
So, that kind of goes back to what I was just saying. Not a machine, right?
Right.
You can make variations of movements to break down each lift to benefit you. And that's a lot to do with general, everyone can do it. But then some of us are weaker and stronger in different body parts.
Yep.
And so there's different areas we have to focus on. So you can break these things down. And Matt Winn's done a really good job with that.
Yeah, absolutely right. And he's phenomenal. And if you watch his videos, he makes sense. Some of his stuff I don't agree with, that he'll have you do.
You'll get that on a little bit of everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Not everybody's right. Not everybody's wrong.
Exactly.
They don't have, exactly, obviously. You own the gym, you got to be right.
At least I got to act like I know what I'm doing.
Right. Fake it till you make it, I guess. With that being said, I have always been a firm believer. You want a big bench, you got to bench big. You want a big squat, you better squat big, right? So always chasing, and you want to be faster on the yoke. Be faster on the yoke, right? You have to train
Time
that.
yourself, be progressive every week. You don't have to go from 3 minutes to 1 minute, but you
Right.
better be going 3 minutes to 250 next week.
Yeah, right.
245, 240.
As long as you're making progress, you're in the right direction. And
mean,
you
if you
can
really-
do little things.
Yeah.
You can throw these accessories in there, right? And most of my programs that I build, there's one main movement, 3 to 4 accessories, right? And they're not crazy. They're not super heavy. They're not super high rep or anything like that. But I feel like that's plenty. And that gives you that progression without overloading you so much that you feel sick or broken all the time, right? All of it comes down to, you want to do more, you got to do more. And all these little exercises are just tools, right?
Yeah.
Tools in the tool belt. So, third honorable mention. Okay, is that wrong? Honorable mention?
Jeez, I got to come up with 3 now?
You got to come up with 3. You said 3.
Oh, man. It's my rules too.
Right?
Can I change
Can
it?
you follow his own rules? I know a few people like you. I don't know. I don't know what my next third one would be.
Well, while you're thinking, I'll come up with
Yeah.
one. You know, the belt squat machine, which you don't see a lot. You're seeing more of nowadays. Such a useful tool. And certain ones are versatile to do a lot of back, and you could do rows with them. You can bring a bench up to them and chest up rows. There's some that you can do weighted dips on. You know, dip bars that come down. You can tie the belt around your waist to do dips. But for the leg movements, you know, for the wide teaching as a teaching tool, and I like to use it as more of a burnout tool toward the end of it. You know, just put a decent amount of weight on there, but nice controlled reps. By the end of the workout, your spine, your central nervous system, your spine are, you know, they're to the point where you want to stop pushing it.
Yeah.
But you still need more work on your legs so you can continue to go. So it's a great machine. I liked it a lot. And we utilize to teach form because you don't have to put a ton of weight. We can work on just half of the body at a time.
Similar to what you were saying with the Hatfield, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hatfield will probably be a little bit more advanced in the belt. So
Yeah.
I'd probably start with belt, then move on there. But yeah. You know, I love to lift. So there's so many lifts in there and so many variations. I think probably an honorable mention that's underutilized or done incorrectly would be let me take that back. Movements done incorrectly in the gym. I don't know, that's not an honorable mention though. But this is gonna be my two.
It's your rules, man.
Yeah. You know, like a chest supported rear delt raise.
Okay.
Doing it correctly, isolating just the rear delt.
Yeah.
I see so many people doing it incorrectly where they're kind of probably doing more of the row shrug you were talking about, which was building the whole upper back. I'm trying to isolate the rear delt.
Yeah.
Big difference between the two.
Big.
I think people are calling it a rear delt, and it's actually more of the hybrid movement you were talking about, you know, where it's more of a row. Oh, dude, I don't even use that weight. There's no way you're doing that correctly, right? So doing that correctly and differentiating and knowing the difference between the lifts, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing it. Where'd you find that one out at, you know? Did you find your third yet? Well, I'm thinking of a third.
Well, I do like your belt squat because I will say as a bodybuilding tool, but also, you know, as that
As a strength
overload,
tool, yeah.
right? So I'm going to steal the belt squat.
That's good.
That's my third.
The exercises people, well, most that I've seen dislike and are super beneficial that are a good honorable mention would be Bulgarian split squats
Okay.
and lunges. Toward the end of the lifts, it just is a great tool to pull separation, especially for bodybuilding, pull separation between the quads, the glutes, and the hamstrings. But it also helps stretch and get, you know, if you just done a max set on a leg press, you barely can walk. Now, if you can get some lunges in there and just pull the blood through there, get the circulation through, just deep separation cuts that you get from them. And they're measurable. They're great. I try to incorporate either one of those at least once or twice a week in the leg training. It's a massive burn, man. It's a burn pain where you don't have to use any weight, it's just your own body.
Yeah.
Yet again, you don't need any tools for this. Just do it, you know. So I'd have to say those are... most of my stuff's all legs, isn't it? It's because legs are the one that most people probably
cheat on the most.
Cheat on, or so. Yeah, I did legs today. I'm like, what'd you do? Leg extensions and hamstring curls.
Well, I was on the Stairmasters.
I walked into the gym, and then I did chest.
That's my cardio. That's what I tell them. I do cardio every day. I walk into the gym.
It looks like you'd sweat getting out of your truck.
Well, I do.
Me too.
That's how you know it was an intense cardio session. No, absolutely. So, with it, all exercises can be beneficial, right?
When done correctly.
Well, if we... all right, let me caveat that one. Kipping pull-ups, there's no place for that.
Yes, there is. It's called CrossFit.
Very impressive sport. Very impressive sport. The amount of conditioning and the ability that they have to do, much respect.
How they can beat their body up daily and keep doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
CrossFit was a gift to physical therapists, I think.
Can be, for sure.
Kept a lot of
Massage
them in business, I'm
therapist,
sure. Kipping pull-ups, I don't understand the purpose behind them.
Well,
There's a
once
lot
you
of-
diet down to 150 again, try them out, see if you find a purpose.
I'm not going to. If I ever diet down to 150, I am very sick, and start me a GoFundMe. Okay? I've lost both legs.
I don't even know if I
and
can
an
do.
arm.
I don't even know if I could do one, dude.
No, and that's the
It's not
difference.
made.
Right?
For, it's not made for 270 to 300 pound dudes. You know.
No. Kipping pull-ups, I don't like. Muscle-ups, very impressive.
Yes.
Very impressive, especially if you watch a heavy guy
Yeah. If you
do a muscle
yeah.
up. That's impressive.
We have some dudes that can do it at 300
Yeah.
pounds. Yeah.
You know, so that's good. I think that's all the hate I have for today.
Yeah. Yeah. We mentioned walking.
Yep.
Keeping pull-ups. Who's gonna hate us on the old glute raises? But we talked about both benefits and, you know, why we don't utilize them, but we also see the positives in it as well.
I could see the benefit for everything that I dislike.
You know, and I've gone full circle many times in the gym on stuff that I disliked and have liked, and you know, these are the ones that I could come up with. You know, with doing it for 25 years now. So.
Yeah. There's just I see people in the gym, whether it's here or when I travel for work, I see what's going on in other states. It's not always good, but and I'm just why
There's so many different. There's usually there is a better option.
Yes.
Sometimes than certain machines and movements. There's always. I always like to, if I'm going to bring it back down to the basics, I always bring it back down to the basics and work up from there. You know, but in prefacing that, every individual is built differently. And there's some crazy exercises I've seen people that works for them.
Yeah.
If it works for you, it's pain-free and you're getting results outstanding.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like you walk up and you see somebody maybe doing something that you don't agree with or find the benefit in, but they're stronger than you or they're bigger than you or whatever.
Or it's working for them.
Maybe it works.
Yeah.
It works for some people. And, you can hate it, but I guess you gotta respect it in a way, right?
We don't necessarily know everybody's story, why they can't do another movement too as well, injuries, whatever.
Yeah. And I think that's how a lot of these wrong ways of doing these exercises come about is because people get injured doing them.
Well, and all the advanced things that you can do as a bodybuilder when you're already 270 to 300 pounds, you already have the mass, and now you're just refining the look.
Yep.
Well, when you're a beginner, you don't need to be doing those movements. You need to be doing the heavy basics. You need to be getting the size in there and bringing out the deep detail first before you do the refining.
Yep.
Absolutely. So I think there's just a little, I saw, one of the top dudes doing that. Well, this is your first month in the gym, bro.
Yeah.
Let's pace yourself
for a
little
decade.
bit.
Maybe start where he started.
Yeah.
And that is right. And on the last podcast, you did talk about the social media aspect of it. Right. We see these guys daily doing it a certain way.
Well, and everybody can pull their phone out and say, this is how you're supposed to do it. And they're Blow Joe from wherever that has no experience. He just jumped out in his car and got to the gym and shot a video.
Right.
So make sure you're following the right source for good information.
And get it from multiple sources, too. Like I always encourage people, get it from multiple sources. Watch this video, watch this guy. Take what you like, take what you don't like, and make it your own. I did want to ask you, do you think that, and this is more powerlifting and strongman, and I have my own theory on this. Does strongman have more carryover into powerlifting, or does powerlifting have more carryover into strongman?
I've never thought about it, but I would say strongman has more crossover into any strength sports. Strongman is I look at it like a farm boy. He just has to go out. He has to move big stuff, and he's got to get the job done.
Yeah.
Powerlifting, you're sitting in one range. You're doing one, frontal range of motion, down, up. That's it.
Yeah.
So strongman has to use the entire body for
Down,
a lot,
up, run
for all the lifts, right?
Yeah.
So I think strongman would only benefit your powerlifting, but then also powerlifting can benefit your strongman. Certain strongman
Right.
lifts, you know.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you're healthy, you're not getting injured. There's definitely, I would say that strongman probably has. If you're just trying to get bigger, faster, and stronger, incorporate strongman movements, man. You're only going to benefit from it.
Yeah.
I always got to preface when done correctly.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I think that strongman, you know, a yoke walk, if you can walk with 800 pounds on your back, I'm pretty sure you can squat close to 800 pounds.
Well, I've done this
You know?
myself.
Yeah.
The exact same thing. I was stuck in a plateau on my squat. I put 100 pounds in the yoke walk, more than that squat, and I walked it. Taxed the central nervous system a whole different way. You know, your body rebuilds and repairs, and then when you put that heavy weight back on the squat, you're like, I've already walked this for 70 feet. All we got to go is down and up now.
Yep.
So it's, you know, it doesn't just make it happen, but at least your body's, you know, adapting to that overload. I would.
Yep.
Yoke walks are great for overloading.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but as a power lifter, if you're using them too much, you could injure yourself. So,
Absolutely.
you know, the right coaching, you know, put it in the program at the right time is also just as key as the movement is, right? So,
Absolutely agree.
I think we wrapped up pretty much there.
Sounds good. Just want to say, you got to tell them they got to like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell.
Hey, yeah, ding, dingy, ding, ding.
Yep.
Ding
So,
the bell.
Ding dong.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right, we'll see you next week.